Hi, how are you doing today? I'm gonna be talking about the Magnus and the Gods of Asgard series. Here are all 3 books. Aren't you glad? I don't think I've been able to hold up all books in a series discussion video in a while, so I feel great that I can do that today. Look at these beauties. Aren't they pretty? This one isn't. I hate this edition so much. But Magnus and the Gods of Asgard is the last Riordan series that I needed to read like his backlist. I still have one standalone book right now. So there we go. I know we've been getting a lot of Riordan on this channel recently, but I've just been trying to make my way through, and this is a trilogy. It focuses on Norse mythology. This video will be spoiler free, so stick around if you have not read this series. Let me give you a synopsis of book 1 basically, because I don't want to spoil the rest of the series. So 2 years before the start of the series, Magnus's mom died in a mysterious way, and ever since then Magnus has been homeless, living on the streets of Boston. And at the start of this novel we find out that Magnus's uncles and his cousin, who's Annabeth Chase from the Percy Jackson series, are looking for him, and he's kind of trying to stay out of their way because right before his mom died he basically told him to like not trust his uncles. So he's trying to stay out of their way, but his uncle Randolph is able to find him, and he starts talking about like Norse mythology and like weird stuff, and also talks about this weapon that's 1,000 years old and has not been found in these 1,000 years, and apparently that weapon is Magnus's birthright. And he's very confused, but he goes along with it, and in an attempt to retrieve this weapon, Magnus actually ends up dying, and a Valkyrie takes him to Valhalla. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, and he ends up being thrown into a chain of events that basically means that he's trying to prevent Ragnarok from happening. Riordan doesn't know how to start his books in a simple manner, you know? Let me give you a ranking of these books, which is something I always do just because I think it's a fun time. We go from my least favorite in the series to my favorite. My least favorite book in the series is The Hammer of Thor, which is book 2. And then on the second place we have The Ship of the Dead, which is the last book. And first place we have The Sword of Summer, which is book 1. Let me go into some individual reviews for these books so you know why the ranking is the way it is, and then you also know my thoughts on the series basically. So we're starting with book 1, The Sword of Summer, which like I said I own. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. I originally read this way back in 2017 I believe, or 2016, I don't remember. I constantly mess it up, but I think I read it in 2017 and I kind of have forgotten everything about it, so that's why I wanted to reread it before getting into the rest of the series finally. And I'm really glad I did, because upon my first read I gave this a 4 star, and now I give this a 5 stars, and I'm in love with it. So I don't know what was wrong with past me, because this was generally really amazing. Like I said, I really love this book. I had such a fun time reading it. I think Magnus is such an incredibly interesting main character, and he's so fun to follow, and he's so funny as well. Like Riordan knows how to write funny protagonists, and Magnus is no exception to that. I laughed out numerous times throughout this book. And also something I really appreciate about Magnus is he's also learning about this Norse mythology world. He knows nothing about it just like I did, and he sometimes like had the same reaction to things that were revealed that I did, and also just really loves the world and learning about it. I feel like throughout the entire series we learn a lot about Norse mythology, but especially in his first book, because in his first book Magnus is also really new to these things and he has to have everything explained to him, while in the later books he just has like some tiny things that need explaining, but mostly he like knows about stuff. But in this book he doesn't, and therefore it is so much fun just learning about Norse mythology. Like I said, I don't know a lot about it, so I had blast learning about it. The story of this book was also very fun and action-packed, but I felt like it took its time to let the moments breathe and let these moments like sink in and like make you fully understand what's going on, because I feel like sometimes with action-packed books things go a little bit too fast for me, and I don't feel the impact of things as they are happening, because you're just constantly moving on to the next thing, and I feel like this book didn't really have that. This book also surprisingly had very high stakes. I really was not expecting that. This gets very intense towards the end, very much more so intense than what you expect from the first book in this series, but I liked it. I thought it had a great tone for the rest of the series, And yeah, I was just super hyped to continue reading the series after finishing this book. So of course I very quickly got around to the Hammer of Thor as well, which I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Sadly, this wasn't a 5-star, but I still really had a fun time reading this book. I thought it was such a fun read. There's a lot of weird hijinks in this book, as in this book they're trying to retrieve Thor's hammer. So there's a lot of weird, wild things these characters are getting into in this book in an attempt to find the hammer, and I thought it was so much fun, and I genuinely had a really fun time reading it. I also just really love the cast of characters for the series. I also had that feeling with the first book, even though I didn't mention it, but this has a very great large cast of characters, and I like how in this book we really got to delve into those side characters more. In the first book we also got to know them pretty well, but the focus was mainly on Magnus and his journey. But in this book we really get to see more in depth about some of the other side characters. We also get introduced to Alex, who's a new character in this book, and I love him so much. I also added some emotional depth to this story that otherwise is very low stakes and very more fun and lighthearted. Like I said, this book has really low stakes, which kept me from being fully engaged and invested in this book, which is why I ended up not coming in a 5-star. But I overall still had a really fun time with this book, and the way that it ended made me immediately want to jump into book 3, which of course I did. I immediately read The Ship of the Dead, which is the final book in this trilogy. Sadly enough, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely adored this. I thought this was a great conclusion to this trilogy. I feel like this book really showcases the found family aspect of the series really well, because we also expand the castle a bit more. Basically, in this world, Valhalla is like a hotel, and you have like these different floors, and Magnus is on floor 19, and he's like friends with the people whose rooms are like close to him, and they have like a little group, but that group doesn't really go on the quest. They kind of like show up in the beginning and the end of the first 2 books, and in this book they get to go along on the questing, and I had so much fun also being able to delve into those characters more. I also think this book had a great plot. It's basically like a voyage at sea to do something that I can't talk about. Because they do this voyage at sea, I feel like we get to explore different parts of this world that we have not seen before, just like expand on things, and I thought that was so fun and interesting to read about. And like I said, it had a great plot. It has a fun storyline. All of these books have, but we also again get some really emotional depths in this book that I really enjoyed, and I even cried in this book. This book also, like, the entire series has a side romance in it that's like very minor, very not a lot. If you know Rick Riordan, you know his romances aren't very much at the forefront, but I feel like in this book we got to see more couplings happening, and they just all make me swoon, and they're nice, and I really love the couples that are together, basically, or like getting on the path to getting together. And yeah, that's everything for the individual reviews. So let's go over some of my overall thoughts on the series. In case you haven't noticed, I love this cast of characters so much. It's one of my new favorite found family dynamics for sure. They're so great, and especially because we delve into these paths of these characters so much, and then the fact that they found this love and appreciation in each other, and I think Rick Riordan did such a great job at showing you these friendships, because we have this large cast of characters and doing like the one big quest, we kind of like doing like these bunch of little ones. I feel like Rick Riordan does a good job of kind of like splitting the big group up and little groups, so that you can really see the different connections between everyone really well. And I think I'm so invested. It's not normal. But besides that, I thought Magnus was a fantastic lead. I had so much fun reading his experience, being in his head. I loved the way he told the story. Basically, I thought it was very funny. Also, I thought this world was fantastic with a really interesting magic system. We got to explore it through really fun action-packed plots that also knew how to pack an emotional punch. Also, I think the series has an amazing villain. We got a little hint of that character being villainous in book 1, but they really amp up the villainous in 2 and 3, and this is one of these cases where I do want to talk spoilers really badly. I say this at the end of every video, like I would love to discuss spoilers. So if you read the series, let me know in the comments what you thought of them, so we can discuss it together. Just leave a little spoiler warning to your comments. So people who have watched this video but have not read the series know not to read your comments. But I desperately want to listen, because I have many thoughts and conclude spoilers, and I can't give them to you. I'm rambling. So let me leave you alone for now. I've said everything I needed to, so hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated?